to WaunaTalk. My name is Gabe Altenburn, and I will be your host as we discover new things, meet new people, and have a blast doing it. On today's segment, I have with me Tim Semmann, the village's new Community and Economic Development Director. Tim, thank you for coming on.
Gabe, thanks very much for having me. Good to be here.
Awesome. So let's kind of just get started. So how long have you worked for the village, and what is the role that you currently hold?
Sure. I am the Community Development Director for the Village of WaunaTalk. That's a relatively new position. I've been here for just a little over 4 months now, so the time has gone by pretty quickly, but a little over 4 months.
So as this in this role, what can you explain like a normal day, and what does your position entail?
Sure. So in this role, kind of wear a number of hats, overseeing our planning division, kind of the implementation of the village's comprehensive plan, economic development, and building inspection. So on a normal day, it really deal with any one or all of the three of those venues in terms of meeting with developers, residents. They may have questions about our development process, obtaining zoning permits, things like that. And then from an economic development standpoint, meeting with business owners regarding where might areas of the village be that they could locate a business, information about the village's TIF districts, how that works, things like that.
So can you just talk to me, how did you end up in this role? What was your career path, and why local government?
Sure. So my pathway here is probably not like other people. So this is actually kind of career number 2 for me. So my first degree, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Communications from UW-Madison, worked in that field for several years, and then got to a point in my life where I kind of said, gee, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? So I ended up going back to school, got a bachelor's degree in Natural Resource Management and Land Use Planning, and got that from UW-Stevens Point. My intent was to go on for a master's program. However, while at Stevens Point, the state's comprehensive planning law came into being. And at that time, up in Portage County, which is in the central part of the state, they had successfully written a grant to secure funds from the state under the comp planning law, whereby all the units of government in the county, and there were 27, so villages, it was the county, the cities, villages, and towns would all be collaborating, and the end result would be each unit of government would have its own comprehensive plan that would meet the new comprehensive planning statute. And I thought, gee, I think I would learn a lot more being employed in that position than going on for a master's degree. So right at the time when I finished up my second bachelor's degree, I was one of 4 people hired by Portage County. So that's how I got into local government, and it was I'm really glad I went that route, and the experience there was very interesting. From there, so I worked in Stevens Point. Then I went on to actually had a sort of a little bit of an off-road or off-ramp, if you will. I worked for the Wisconsin Builders Association for a little over 2 years, but then was hired with the city of Sun Prairie and worked in their planning department for about 13 and a half years before coming here to WaunaTalk.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So even though you're new, this might be a lot, but what do you think most people in the community don't know about you that kind of would offer a glimpse into your passions?
Sure. Well, from a community development standpoint, planning standpoint, on the professional side of things, I would say I really like looking at the big picture and seeing how all the pieces fit together. I really get a lot of enjoyment in seeing things through from concept to completion, and that I think is a big advantage of working at a local level, where you really have a hand in, again, as I mentioned earlier, working with the development community someone comes in with an idea. Hey, I'd like to do this on this piece of ground, and then you know will attend a groundbreaking or a ribbon cutting when the project is complete. So that's very interesting. On the personal side, I'd say people, so, those who don't know me, I'll bill myself as an avid outdoors person. I really enjoy biking and hiking a lot, fishing and hunting. I really have an affinity to being outside and toward natural resources. So that weaves itself into the planning side of things to hopefully integrate the natural environment into the built environment.
That's perfect. And I think that'd be great for Wanakee. Can you tell us just kind of where did you grow up and what kind of defined your childhood?
Sure. I grew up in Sun Prairie, so not too far from here. Went to school, as I mentioned earlier, went to school at UW-Madison following high school. So sort of a local guy, I guess, but then moved away for several years, about 8 or 9 years. I actually lived in Stevens Point. Let's see. In terms of what defined my childhood, boy, I'd say being in a smaller town, kind of like Wanakee. Sun Prairie was at the time smaller, but yet close enough to the Madison market, with access to the, I'll say, the things, the stuff, the amenities, the university, all the events associated with that, state government. So a lot of things happening in this area, but yet being able to do things, I guess, as a kid, where you felt very unencumbered. We didn't have a lot of, I'll throw out the word stranger danger. That wasn't a word back when I was a kid. So we did a lot of things as kids, biking around, playing, and just being able to kind of, I'll say, roam freely. So again, that I think speaks to my passion about outdoors. So it was kind of nice to have access to the outdoors and also the ability to just run outside or take your bike kind of wherever without a lot of concern. So that was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. So kind of shifting topics between personal and professional, you are in a leadership position in the village. So what do you think the most important characteristic of leadership is, and how do you think you embody that?
Good question. I think I would say from my perspective, there's no one answer. I think there's a lot of important characteristics for leadership, but for me personally, I'd say there's probably 3 things: communication, trustworthiness, and integrity. And by integrity, I mean essentially, when you say what you do what you say. And as part of communication, I would say an important piece of communication is listening. And obviously, there's you hear a lot of times people will, or the phrase, well, there was poor communication, and it's kind of like, well, what does that mean? So there's speaking, and then there's listening, and just on a really simple communication model level. But so those things: communication, trustworthiness, and integrity, and a willingness to listen. And so in terms of how I embody that, I would say I try to make sure I communicate frequently with not just staff, but with those who report to me, but all staff. And so some people may say I'm redundant, but I guess I'd rather err on that side than not communicating frequently enough. So again, communication I think is very important. Also, following through with what you say. I try and make sure and do that.
So as economic development, community development, how do you measure success for your department, people, and for yourself?
So there's 2 ways. I mean, the easy way I think is quantitative. We can you can say, oh, we processed X number of zoning permits, or we processed X number of development applications, and the time frame in which that review took place. But I think there's also a qualitative piece of that which is much harder to measure, and that is customer satisfaction. And that for right now, I think comes in the form of relationship building and just follow up with those who've been through the process, just checking in, how are things going, and getting some feedback. Again, that speaks more to that listening piece of communication. So in terms of measuring, again, there's the number. There's also things like timeliness, how fast or timely we are in responding to people. It may be the case that people, some people might not like the answer, but they will at least get an answer, and in a fairly timely fashion. So some of those things are the way I would say I measure success.
So, do you, through your years of experience, have you ever developed a personal motto or words of wisdom that you apply to your job? And if so, what is that?
Yeah, and I would say it's more. I mean, it's both personal and professional. It's something I learned a long time ago when I think I was in school. I belonged to an organization. We would start our meetings with the phrase, "Have a care and govern yourself accordingly," and that always stuck with me. And I thought, but wow, have a care. And you're like, what does that mean? I think it can mean just about anything you want. But if you care about things other than yourself and govern yourself accordingly, essentially caring about other people and how things that you do impact others and vice versa, you take a little bit more, I'll say a global look at, hopefully, how things function rather than just what's in it for me. So I think that I'll kind of bounce back to that phrase, and I'll ask myself, am I governing myself accordingly under the rubric of caring? And so I would say that would be it.
That's awesome. So kind of your last question, what advice can you tell someone who is interested in local government but doesn't really know how to get started?
Like a lot of things, I think for people, be curious, and with being curious, ask people questions. And so that means whether you're younger or older, just start asking people who are in local government those questions, and more from a career path. Just make yourself available, even if it's for a few minutes or a few hours, and to say, hey, I'm interested in doing job X, or what you do, whomever you're targeting in terms of a vocation. And so to ask to see like some job shadowing opportunities and things like that, I would encourage people to do that, whether it's internships in school, those kind of things. So a lot of ways that people can be in touch. And I think what those people will find who are just starting, that people who are in a given field, most fields for that matter, they're very willing to offer information, advice on how to proceed into getting into local government.
Well, thank you so much. This was definitely a pleasure to talk with you. Are you ready to pick who's next?
I am.
All right.
I am. Okay.
Feel free to spin the wheel.
All right, here we go. The answer is Erin Moran.
Yes.
All right, Gabe, thank you.
Big thanks to Tim for coming on the show. On November 17th, I have with me Erin Moran, one of the village's board members. Make sure to follow the village's social media and website for important village updates. Until next time.